Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. This webinar is brought to you by InTouch Technology and LEADLION Marketing. My name is Bart Boudin and I will be your host today. I am the Sales and Marketing Manager for InTouch. So our agenda today is to address some key questions on every club operator's mind right now. Once they reopen, how do I start generating pre-pandemic levels of revenue? How long will that take? Where do I start? We have an awesome discussion, so please join us to hear how some clubs are not only hitting their pre-pandemic levels of revenue, but are also exceeding them. We will share with you today some key ideas on how these clubs are able to win in these challenging times. So without further ado, let's get started. So the agenda for today, I'm going to go through a little bit of a company profile to tell you a little bit about InTouch and LEADLION Marketing, just so you have a sense of where some of the content is coming from and some of the company background. I'll go through some introductions. Obviously, I want to introduce our presenters as well as myself. We'll go through sort of the bulk of the presentation, which is discover how health clubs are experiencing real growth, talk to you about different ways that we're helping clubs and what we're seeing in the industry at this time. And then we'll open up the floor for a little discussion to talk about the current landscape of the fitness industry and sort of talk about that quote unquote new normal that's happening today and moving forward. And then lastly, we'll finish with a Q&A where we have some questions that we'll be answering for you guys. So to go over the company profile, InTouch is a sales and retention software. We're a CRM specifically developed for the health and fitness industry. Since the beginning, our goal has been to provide real-world solutions to help health clubs with their communication challenges. And we work with clubs of all different shapes and sizes. LEADLION Marketing is a marketing agency that specializes in lead gen marketing for health clubs with high performance ads and funnels. And Nick, I'll also let you add a little bit if you'd like at this point about the company profile since you're on.
Yeah, hey Bart, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always fun to connect and be here. And so basically we work specifically in the health club industry and have been for many, many years, a lot of industry experience, and we help health clubs generate more leads, more sales to membership revenue.
Awesome, thank you. So Vivian, I'll just let you go through your bio a little bit. Tell us about yourself, sort of your background, your philosophy.
Of course. Well, I've been working in the fitness industry for over 15 years, both in retail sports supplements as well as in the actual gym setting. So during my time in the fitness clubs, I've had the pleasure of being a top performer, both as a general manager as well as a district leader. And my real strengths, and I would say expertise, is helping clubs identify their major gaps in their business and helping them overcome those gaps where they can start looking at increasing revenue. I would say my passion and my philosophy is that solutions always start off with a strong culture, a process, and execution. In one word, I would say I believe in winning.
Nice. Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Vivian. Appreciate it.
I like that.
Nick, I'll let you jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. Yeah, the quick version is I'm the CEO of LEADLION Marketing. We're obviously a health club marketing agency with 23 years of fitness industry experience. And I've had the privilege and opportunity to do a lot of different things in the industry. I've owned my own facilities and had a successful exit. At one point, I was in charge of the business development, marketing, and sales training of over 50 clubs and 500 fitness employees before that company sold to LA Fitness. We work with health clubs all over internationally. And I had the privilege of working with one of the sharks from Shark Tank. They actually reached out and we built a relationship with them. Kevin Harrington, he was one of the first 3 seasons. I don't know if you guys remember him. But anyway, we ran his online funnels and we cut his acquisition cost by up to 73% within the first 6 weeks. And he was very, very happy about that and became profitable. So my philosophy is, listen, if you win for the people you're serving, your clients, your members, and you win for your team, and you win for others, you're going to win yourself. So just be, we're others focused, and we want to win for you. We want to win for other people, our partners. We know it always comes back.
And Nick, that's a great philosophy, especially for this industry. I think it's a very tight-knit community. I think everyone, especially at this time, wants to help one another, and come out stronger on the other side. So thank you for that.
Sure.
A little bit about me. I'm a sales and marketing manager at InTouch Technology. I'm basically responsible for the company's sales and marketing efforts, strategies, forecasting, and ensuring that the accuracy of the sales pipeline is maintained. I'm basically a liaison or bridge between InTouch and our customers. I work with a lot of different clubs on a daily basis, helping them to look at their tech stack and seeing where there's technology gaps, where certain systems and softwares could come in and play a big role in efficiency and process and ultimately their bottom line. I've been in the industry for about 10 years. In the software for the fitness industry, and then I've also had the luxury of being able to operate a small fitness studio with a friend of mine back in Toronto in Canada. So that was a great eye opener and taught me a lot of different things about the difficulties and challenges of operating a fitness space. My philosophy is that the bigger the challenge, the bigger the reward. I use that in my everyday life. When it comes to training, when it comes to work, that allows you to get hungry and to go after those big challenges, because you just know that the reward is going to be so much bigger than that. So that's what I live by, and I think it applies to a lot of things in our lives. So
that's fantastic, Bart.
Awesome.
Right on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So moving on, one of the things we'll just jump in right away is, what are some of the main challenges that clubs are experiencing right now? And I'll pass it over to you guys to talk a little bit about this and flesh this out for our listeners.
Sure. Thanks, Bart. So one of the major items that clubs are struggling with right now is going to be member attrition. So there are some clubs that have lost up to almost 50% of their current member base through this pandemic. And that's extremely concerning. New member acquisition is another. Because clubs are so focused on just getting the clubs back open safely and effectively, their new member acquisition has also reduced dramatically. So as clubs are losing members, they're not selling enough new members in order to even cover their overhead. And this is where they're seeing huge losses or reductions in their overall revenue. Some clubs are seeing as high as an 80% loss in revenue compared to pre-pandemic. And then, of course, lower guest traffic. There's a lot of people out there that are still reluctant to come back into the gyms because they're concerned about their health and safety. So how do clubs counter all of these challenges?
Yeah, one of my questions that I wanted to ask, on behalf of our viewers is, where should their focus be for that increase in revenue and increased guest traffic? Should it be PT? Should it be memberships? Should it be new member acquisition? Where should these businesses focus their energy from the onset of reopening, having that reopen status?
Well, I think it really starts from the first part of the member life cycle, and that's going to be your lead generation. And Nick, I'm going to have you kick that part off around the lead generation and how important it is towards getting the clubs back to where they need to be in revenue growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been on the phone for the last month, almost daily, talking to club owners and coming up with different strategies for lead generation. And the good news is without being all doom and gloom, there is a lot of positives happening right now on the lead gen side. We're seeing low cost acquisition, low cost leads coming in groves in some markets right now, post COVID reopening. So there's a right way to do it. We can dive into more of that later. But I mean, one of the things you always want to do is invest in your top of funnel, your front end. because you've got to keep membership sales going. Vivian touched on attrition and how critical it is to not be losing net members and to be growing that membership base even post-pandemic. And it is possible. And we're seeing it right now with some clubs, and we have lots of case studies. And I think we may be talking about one of those today.
So Nick, with everyone doing lead gen and really keeping their focus there, as Vivian pointed out, that's where it starts. How does one differentiate themselves in their advertising? So if everyone's doing it, you want to stand out. You want to make sure that your message is the first one that's being read or actioned on by a prospect. How do you differentiate?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bart. There's so many different ways we could dive into. I'll just touch on a couple of smaller ones or short version ones right now. One of the ways that you can differentiate yourself and get lower cost leads is to be more authentic and organic in the newsfeed. So we're talking about maybe social media advertising using Facebook and Instagram ads. And in those ads, not looking overly commercial. A lot of the mistakes that health clubs are making today is their ads look way too overdone and they don't fit into the newsfeed. And so they have low engagement. People scroll right past. And so they're not getting attention because they look like an ad. And the secret is actually when you're running an ad in social to not look like an ad. So that's one of the secrets. Another one is diving too far deep. Yes, we're in a pandemic. Yes, we have to deal with COVID, but we talk about something for all of our clubs. It's called a clean club promise. But if we go and we dive way too deep in that clean club promise and start saying we're doing this and we're sanitizing this and disinfecting that, what it does in the mind and the psychology of the person reading that ad, it starts to freak them out more than it helps them. So we play it light. And so we say, yes, we have a clean club promise for peace of mind. And now you can start focusing on your health and your fitness and then go back to what's important to them and not dwell on trying to mitigate fear. We want to mitigate fear, but if we dwell on it, it's just going to make fear swell. So that's another thing that you should definitely be thinking about in your messaging.
Awesome. Thank you for that. It's very insightful. I really like the point of if you beat into people's heads the cleaning and the sanitizing, it definitely does sort of pose as a disadvantage, brings that fear in. So that's a really good point. I don't think a lot of clubs sort of look at it that way. They think they're doing, they think they're doing their members and their prospects a service by advertising that, but it can definitely bite them in the end.
Right. And real quick, I won't harp on this, but when you think about it, when the pandemic first happened, you got like 1,000 emails from every company you're subscribed to on your email list that all said the same thing. We're taking precautions. We're following the CDC. Everyone's saying the same thing. So what happens is you become vanilla. It becomes very boring and you don't stand out. And we talked about differentiating yourself. You don't want to be numb and you don't want to turn a blind eye to it. You want to address it, but you don't want to live in that area of your marketing message because you will not differentiate yourself. You'll be with the masses and you don't want to do that.
Yes, definitely. So I'm just gonna keep pushing forward here, guys. The next one we have, we have this guy putting his hand in the sand. It's such a great graphic because it is very easy to get discouraged at a time like this. I think from not only the operators and the business owners' perspective, but I think also from the prospects and from the members' perspective. And to your point, Nick, being bombarded by all these emails about the COVID-19 and sanitizing and cleaning, I think it can be pretty discouraging for a lot of people, especially the ones that really want to get back into the gym after a couple months of not being able to work out or having to sort of put together something at home that doesn't really cut it for them. So moving on, we kind of touched on this a little bit in terms of the advertising piece, but what are some of the ways that clubs are doing things differently? Maybe we can go through a little bit of that. Nick, I'll let you start this time and give us a little bit of insight in terms of what you're seeing.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about investing in lead gen marketing, and that's important. Number two is we're talking about focusing on revenue-based processes and behaviors. And I want to touch on that. So Vivian said something to me on the phone not long ago. Don't stop doing what worked in the past. Do more of it. And it's true because when you think about it, you're going to have success based on the strength of your sales team, the follow-up, the desire to go out there and win. And so it's really important to be doing sales training. It's really important to be working on your operations, your marketing, and do everything you were doing that made you successful before and do more of it and really dial it in. It's easy to get really lazy in a good market on those systems. Now it's time to get nitty gritty on the details and really dial in and become the best sales team you can be, become the best operated club, the cleanest club that you can be, and then really use a combination of digital marketing, grassroots marketing to the best of your ability, get out there and meet people. So I think that that's one of the best places to start. And Vivian, you want to add to that, you can.
I agree completely. Having worked in several clubs and having to grow a lot of clubs from the ground floor, it all went back to doing the basics really well. And I think that's what a lot of clubs need to get back to, is get back to being accountable to the daily phone calls, those daily interactions with members, sorry, just lost it for a sec.
That's okay. It happens. We've all got COVID brain, right? Quarantine brain.
Yeah. It's really all about falling in love with process again. Because if you can fall in love with the process and you can fall in love with doing the basics really well, you are going to get through this. You are going to succeed. And we've actually seen this with one of the case studies we'll be talking about later, is clubs can not only get back to pre-pandemic levels, they can actually surpass the revenue that they were doing before the pandemic as well.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note that, you know, a lot of clubs are saying, well, I wanted to go back to the way that we were pre-pandemic. But what they're not taking into consideration is that we are in this quote unquote a new normal. And, you know, it doesn't mean that it has to be any different. Doesn't have to be worse. In fact, it could be better than before. So I think clubs need to look at that and say, we can be better than we were before with the situation that we're in today. Because, you know, most clubs have a lot of the processes in place that have survived this, right? Obviously, and ones that are hanging on. I mean, the process is going back to those basics are what's going to help you get out of that and have you come out stronger on the other side. So Vivian, you just, you know, you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but how are some clubs thriving while others are barely surviving in this industry today?
Of course. So this graph is a really good illustration of a few of our clubs that we currently work with, both with LEADLION and InTouch. And this is their revenue fluctuations from before COVID, during COVID, so during the peak of COVID, and presently what their revenue is looking like right now. So if you look at 3 clubs in February, all 3 are very similar. They're all in rural areas, typically about 20,000 square feet. And you notice the revenue is very much the same between all 3. When March hit, when we're at the highest peak of our pandemic, there are some clubs that needed to close. There's some clubs that stayed open, but there was very minimal revenue coming in, if at all. Now, once a club started opening up slowly in the month of June, you could see a peak or a jump in new revenue coming in from all of the individuals that were sitting at home, that are cooped up, that had that pent up need to come back to the gym. So that's why you could see an influx in that revenue increase. Now, July is probably the most interesting statistic that you can see. While there are some clubs that are staying stagnant, another club may have a little bit of growth, but our club C not only saw growth to their pre-pandemic levels, they actually saw an increase of almost 40% above their pre-pandemic levels. So wow. If one club can do it, all clubs can do it.
Definitely. And, you know, I want to spend a little bit of time here, guys, you know, we have a Q&A coming up shortly after. And one of the things we wanted to kind of flesh this out a little bit, and you guys work very closely with this Club C, specifically the one that's really increased their revenue post-pandemic. Can you guys maybe flesh that out? Like, what are some of the key components to getting them to this level? And Nick, I'll let you maybe touch on the marketing side and the lead generation side. Like, what are some of the if you were to say like top 5 key points that these clubs were able to utilize to get to that level?
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's dive in. So it was probably early June, maybe early mid-June. I had a extensive conversation with the owner of this club, and we laid some things out, and I convinced the owner to give us, from a marketing standpoint, more control when it came to front-end offers and what's going to drive revenue. And also encouraged the owner to really do a deeper dive into InTouch technology, which he did, and to utilize the platform much better than he was using it before. And that also helped significantly. So one of the things that we talked about, I told the owner that we have to have a strong front end offer to drive EFT and to get volume up. And so we did that. He gave us free reign, and we were able to split test multiple advertising campaigns, multiple offers, and use what we call an online lead generation funnel for health club membership leads. And so what we did is we created a micro funnel that was online, it was mobile optimized, and we ran social media paid advertising and split test a lot of these different variables and came up with a winning solution and scaled it. And then once we scaled it, lead count went up, membership walk-ins went up, as far as membership point of sale. And also he started, I got to give the owner credit too, because after the conversation, the owner really took it to heart, dug in, and really started dialing in what I was talking about earlier on his sales systems, making sure the right people were trained, doing the right things. And it all came together to really drive revenue. And he said that he is positive net members each month from that point. So it's been good.
Great. And do you strongly suggest paid advertising as part of the lead generation marketing campaigns?
Yeah, it's the fastest, easiest way to scale your club. So when you look at advertising, you have a lot of different types. You have disruptive advertising, which would be social media like Facebook ads, which go out and disrupt someone's news feed and grab their attention and call them to action. And then you have Google PPC, which Google PPC is more of a, you can have display ads too, but it's more, it's not going to create demand as much. It's going to be for those that have high intent or are already shopping. And so you're going to have some leads, but not as much. So your volume's not going to be as high. So what we do is we focus on creating demand where there is no demand. We go out and we hunt and we find prospective members instead of waiting for those members to come to you. And that's one of the biggest mistakes you can do in this time, is to put a chokehold on your advertising when you should be, growing your ad budget to be able to, you don't have to swell it to where you're overspending and it's inflated. You want to take care and make sure you're having a good ROI, but you want to really make sure that you're drawing as many prospects into your club as possible, because all these people that canceled their membership are now fair game. And then you're going to have new people in the marketplace that were not there before who want to get healthy. Obesity has become an issue. Health has become a primary concern. People are more interested in health today than they have been in the last 10 years. So now is the time to go out, spend on advertising, and get your share of the market share and as much of it as you can as quickly as possible through those types of means.
So would you suggest the kind of messaging that offers discounted rates? I know that I personally, I'm on a lot of different clubs lists because I tend to go in different clubs and just kind of see what's going on. And I receive, a lot of different discounted offers to sign up. Would you say that is the right approach to a time like this, to kind of what you said earlier, where now's the time to get after it?
Yes and no. It is, because you've got to have something that's low friction to grab somebody that's on the fence. So you're going to have 3 different stages of people at this time. You're going to have people who are the early adopters that are going to want to join a gym no matter what. They're shopping, they're looking, they're interested. That may be 20% of the marketplace. Then you got the middle of the pack. The middle of the pack is kind of back of their mind, thinking about it. but not really super interested, not actively pursuing it and shopping. And then you have the bottom 20, 30%, which it's not even on the radar. They could care less, and they have no desire to get in shape at this point or go to the gym. And that's a much harder sell. So in order to get a huge portion of that pie to where you're getting at least 2/3 of that, where you're getting the early adopters and you're getting the middle market people that may be on the fence, you're going to have to offer something of high value that's low friction to get them in the door. Otherwise, you're going to be pulling from that small 20%. So for example, I'm just going to throw some things out there. A low enrollment offer, a free trial offer, a free month or 2 offer. It doesn't have to be the first 2 months. You can prorate it if you're selling 6, 12-month agreements. There's different ways to do that, but you have to limit your quantity, and guidelines work well with that because right now, CDC and the states and governments, local governments are all limiting capacity anyway. So when you say, hey, this is only for so many people, you're going to decreasing supply increases demand. And so you're going to have higher uptake, and the lead gen is going to really do really well for you by doing that. So think low friction. It's worth it because you got to get your EFT up. Either they're going to pay another club your EFT, or they're going to pay your club the EFT every month. And you want to grab that member as quickly as possible. So think about having some sort of low friction front end offer.
Nice. Thank you, Nick. Vivian, you also work very closely with this club and some of the internal processes and with their teams. Can you maybe speak to that a little bit about, tell us a little bit about what sort of opportunities you found, what gaps you saw, and then, what are some of the solutions to help resolve those areas?
Of course. So this club had a lot of challenges internally, not only with COVID, but they had one of their managers go on maternity leave. They've never had salespeople working. It was always front-end staff that did not have any sales experience. So what we needed to do was really to take a look at their process and look at the systems that they had in place. They had some great systems such as InTouch. That was a great tool for the team to use, but they were really using it as a task versus a tool. So they weren't seeing a return on investment even when those leads were coming in. So what I did is come into the team. We had to really start off right from the beginning and teach them how to make a proper phone call. What are the best times to make those phone calls? How to take a guest through a proper value-based tour. How to close based on value. And then also how to add personal training on as well. So that process saw not only really great gains in the overall culture and engagement of the team, but it also saw gains on the revenue side as well.
Great. And ultimately, I mean, we're in an industry where it's people driven, and I think going back to basics, like you mentioned earlier, Vivian and Nick, requires the people aspect. You can't rely only on software and have the software become your engagement or communication tool solely. You still have to build the value. You still have to really get at what the goal is of these individuals. Why are they coming in, or why are they wanting to come in, and really get at that and provide the value to get them to sign up. So those are really great points. And Nick, if you have any other input, Vivian, if you guys have any other inputs, I'll let you guys to do that now. Otherwise, we can skip to the Q&A.
Yeah, we can skip ahead.
Awesome. So thanks for sticking with us so far. We have some great questions and answers in this section here, where we'll sort of take the biggest questions that we've kind of heard from our customers and as well as from what Nick's heard from his customers and overall the industry, and try to provide you some kind of content and context with an answer to those. So the first question is, how can you increase membership sales when prospects are still concerned about coming into the gym? Obviously, given the situation we're in, everyone's got that concern. How do we increase those membership sales?
One way that you can look at increasing membership sales almost immediately is pivoting the business where you're looking at a hybrid model. Hybrid is where we're talking about virtual memberships, virtual PT, whether it's one-on-one or boot camps, and then virtual subscriptions for classes. So not only are you looking at taking care of the revenue within your four walls, you're also looking at expanding your revenue outside your four walls.
And Vivian, would you say that virtual training or virtual members is the new normal moving forward and it's here to stay?
It is the new normal. A survey actually came out of the States just, I believe, last month, and they surveyed Americans. So 50% of Americans are saying that they are not comfortable returning to the gym anytime soon. 50% of individuals that are currently using an online platform for training or classes are saying that they're going to continue using virtual fitness as their main means of continuing their fitness routine.
Yeah, we have a few customers that have gone this route, and one of the things that they've also added was that they're getting members from out of state, ones that had maybe moved on, were a prior member, and wanted to stay with the club, and virtual membership or virtual training allow them to do so. So they've even expanded. They're actually an all women's club. They've expanded their offering to men as well, and they're getting members from out of state, out of town, which is awesome to see. It sort of creates this virtual network for your club as well.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had a case study out of Vancouver from a local yoga studio, and this studio actually was able to retain 70% of their revenue during lockdown by offering virtual yoga classes.
That's great. Yeah, that's really good to see. And I'm sure that's being maintained and by somebody there, and it's going to continue for them because it clearly is something that's working for their business. So next question, how are some clubs able to grow their revenue during these uncertain times? We touched on this obviously a little bit about the Club C that we talked about, where we LEADLION and InTouch has helped them, but maybe we can flesh that out even more and give people some very specific focused key areas or tools that they can really either obtain or implement into their clubs.
Of course. I think it stems down to one word, to be honest with you, and that word is accountability. And accountability stems from the top down. Accountability with ownership, to have a vision of what they would like in terms of their club growth, and being able to share that vision with the rest of their team to have alignment. The second layer is going to be club management, is accountability of creating a culture where the entire club is invested in that success for increased revenue. The management also has accountability to the team for retraining. If they see that there are gaps in calls, if they see that there are gaps in appointment shows, or if they see there are gaps in their closing, is taking a minute to retrain the team on all of those gaps. From a frontline standpoint is member experience. Accountability of making sure that every member that walks through the door of that gym has world-class customer service, so they feel comfortable and confident and a part of a community where they're going to continue going to the gym even though there is a low level of risk. And the last one is member accountability, is how do we as a fitness club or a fitness organization help our members stay accountable to their fitness goals? Everyone, including myself, probably slipped a little bit on our fitness during COVID. I know I did.
Yeah, definitely. I remember rejigging my living room into a bench press, so you can tell, you could see how far some people have went.
And that's where some of these clubs can also use these virtual tools to keep their members engaged virtually, even through COVID.
Great. So moving on, how quickly can a club start recovering their revenue losses?
So very interesting. It was actually quite a wonderful surprise to me is that our case study that we did out of Tennessee, this club was able to grow by 40% over pre-pandemic levels within a month.
Wow. So fairly quickly.
Fairly quickly. It's about commitment.
That's great. And so what are some of the major changes that you've seen, the 30 days out in terms of you touched on accountability, you touched on front end staff, you touched on processes. What are those changes being kept? What are those changes? And maybe flesh that out a little bit for us.
The biggest thing is, I think, awareness. A lot of the team members before COVID and before our engagement didn't understand the why and didn't understand the importance of why we wanted to sell more memberships or sell more personal training. Once we had them aligned with the vision of why it was important, not only to get the club back to where it needed to on a revenue case, but also to change lives. That's when we really saw the buy-in. That's when we really saw the engagement of the team. And that's where we really saw the results.
That's great. Nick, do you have anything to add to what Vivian had already mentioned?
I love what Vivian said just now. I do have a quick, interesting fact and thought for you about the first point that she was talking about on going virtual. Just had a phone conversation earlier with a multi-unit owner of some very large clubs up in the New York area, and they just got the green light to reopen. And he made a statement that most of the people coming back are men. And we saw this trend nationally that it was men were the first movers as a whole, not 100%, but we do see that women are much more likely to use virtual training, virtual boot camps, yoga studios. So if you have a demographic where your female demographic is not coming in, it's a great way to get them back. And so Vivian, thank you for touching on that. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So what should they expect from lead gen during this time, or what do clubs expect from lead gen during this time, Nick?
Yeah, it really depends on the market that you're in. So if you're in a really saturated market, obviously your cost per lead is going to be a little higher. But I have some really good news. We're seeing post-pandemic, if you will, or pre-pandemic, whatever, lead costs have dropped significantly. We're actually getting $4, $3 leads in some markets, which is really good. We've had leads as low as $2, $3, which is pretty low. So if you're looking at a lifetime value of a member anywhere from $200 to $400, and you're getting leads for anywhere from $3 to $5, maybe a little higher in some markets, that's phenomenal. You can see a huge ROI. So there are other markets that are much more competitive, where you have a gym, a large big box on every street corner, and those markets cost per lead is going to be a little bit higher in those instances, but it's still, the ROI is there because, like I said, you want those paying members on your EFT and not someone else's. So
yeah, definitely. That's great to hear that the cost, the marketing spend has gone down. What is the major contributor to that?
Well, everyone is on social media more than ever before. We're seeing a huge uptick in social media. We're seeing a lot of people are not watching TV as much. They're on social media. Everybody was quarantined. Everybody's at home. People are still working from home. And so social media ads are being seen and engaged with because people are scrolling a lot more than they used to. So you're getting in front of an audience for pennies on the dollar for what it used to cost. CPMs, which is cost to reach 1,000 people, those came down quite a bit at a time. Now that we are going into a little bit more of the deeper of the election cycle, so we may see those come back up because there's a lot more advertising there. But overall, it's been really good because of the user base, and costs have gone down. So it's been good.
Yeah, I mean, at this, it's almost 2021, and I think at this point, if you're not on social media, you need to get there real quickly. It's a great platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, to get your message out, to get your brand out, get some awareness from prospects, as well as from members. And it's a great engagement tool as well, specifically for those people that maybe are training online, or they're getting back to the gym or looking to get back to the gym. So yeah, those are great points, Nick. What
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
what kind of offers do you see that are working today in the times that we're in?
Yeah, well, you got to think about the psychology of what's going on in the mind of the consumer. They're facing uncertainty. Many people have faced financial hardship. So you have to take these things into consideration moving forward with any type of offer. And then you also have to look at your own ability. Do you need more volume? Do you want more volume in sales? Or do you want less volume and higher upfront? So you're collecting enrollment fees, you're collecting first and last month, things of that nature. Here's my philosophy on this. If you have a larger club with a bigger footprint, larger being maybe over 15 to 20,000 square feet and above, and you want volume, or you should want volume, because you can cross-sell that volume into personal training programs, group training programs, and everything else. So it's really important for you to get volume. If you're a smaller footprint, anywhere from maybe 8,000, 10, 12,000 square foot, in that range, that club, maybe you do want to collect fees up front, and you're not looking to sell thousands of memberships, but you are looking to get that upfront money in the bank so you can pay your rent next month. So it really depends. But if you're looking for high volume lead generation, you're going to have a low friction offer. And low friction means you're going to have to discount an enrollment or a free month or do something to stand out to get people in the door. And then the messaging and the ad copy is really going to be important too, to support that and create that excitement, that demand.
Great. And what are some of the don'ts for these offers? Like with something that you shouldn't do that, is going to actually give you a negative effect versus a positive effect that you're after?
Yeah, so some of the don'ts are, we touched on it earlier, don't over talk about COVID, don't over talk about, all the things that have to do with keeping a club clean and reducing fears. Obviously, don't mention anything about politics. You will get flagged by Facebook or whatever in a hurry, and they will suspend your ads or even ban your account for policy violations. So make sure you're careful around the language there. And some other things that we talked about earlier not to do is don't remember you're in a social media environment, so don't look like an ad. If you have graphics all over and too much wording and text, and it says, join now all over the ad on the graphics in the media, that's not a good ad. And I see health clubs make that mistake all the time. And then we take over that account and they're like, well, we don't know why our cost per lead so high. And we go in and make some changes right away just to the creative aspects to fit in with the newsfeed and look more organic. And immediately we're able to cut acquisition costs by not looking like a moving billboard on social media. It's not the right place to do that. So something to consider when creating your ads or whoever you're working with as far as an agency.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Keep it very realistic. Have some authentic images, not some stock photography that you've downloaded off the web that doesn't really reflect your brand or your message. It's got all these flashy neon lights, like my sign here. but but yeah, that's a very interesting point. I think a lot of clubs overlook that. They want really high quality images. And with today's technology and phones that we have, it's very easy to go into your own club, ask some members if you can do some photos with them, and then use those as part of your advertising. It's very easy and very quick to do. So, great point, Nick. And I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about it. Real quick, 10 seconds. I'm also wanting to make sure that you understand that the photo quality has to be good. Good lighting, good photo quality. It can't just be anything you want to throw out there. So my advice is always be taking pictures and videos and learn a few things about photography and video, or have someone dedicated to doing that, so you always have fresh, new material coming in.
Great. Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. So the last question here, common mistakes for social media advertising. I think we touched on a little bit about this already, if not a lot.
We did.
But Nick,
Yeah.
if you have anything else that you wanted to add, I'll give you that time now. Otherwise, we'll start going into some closing arguments and closing conclusions.
We touched on it pretty much. How about this one? Not running paid advertising. You have to pay to play. So your page back in, I think it was 2018, Facebook's business page algorithm changed to where you do not get as much reach as you used to on your social media pages. So when you post something to your page, you may get 3 to 6% of the people that are connected to your page actually see that post, if even that. So you got to remember, if you're not paying for ads to be running, you're not reaching your marketplace. And it's not just boosting a post here and there, which is a huge mistake. Please don't just go boosting posts. It needs to be strategic. There should be split testing. You should be testing creative, testing headlines, testing ad copy, everything. So that way you're getting the best bang for your buck and the most ROI when it comes to your advertising.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think at this point we've given our listeners quite a bit of information. Definitely some very key takeaways from there. And some of them, if not hopefully all of them, are looking at us and saying, well, how can InTouch and how can LeadLion help my business? I want to be where Club C is today. So what are some of the ways that they can get in contact with you, Nick, Vivian, and to have those discovery calls where we can go ahead and kind of flesh out where there's some gaps, where there's opportunities for us to come in and help.
So one of the easiest ways is just get in touch, schedule a 30-minute discovery call, and we can have some time to uncover any of the gaps that you have in your revenue streams, and we can help fill those gaps for you.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could just reach out and connect. Same thing, connect with InTouch, connect with Vivian. You can reach us at email or website at leadlinemarketing.com. And one last thing I want to say is, here's the beauty of this whole process. LeadLion integrates with InTouch. So if you can visualize the cycle of a member who has no idea you exist, or they know you exist and don't care that you exist, all of a sudden they have this advertising in front of them on their newsfeed. They engage with the advertising. They learn more about your club and your brand. They become familiar with you. They opt in. They give you their name, their phone number, their email, and information. And that information is taken to a confirmation page, and it's automatically imported right into InTouch Technology. So you have a full suite for follow-up and marketing and tracking and sales. And so that member comes in and signs up and refers 5 of their friends, and the snowball continues. So I want you to think about, it's the full suite and the full cycle of everything that you would need. It's very comprehensive.
Yeah, Nick, that's a great point. I mean, ultimately, you want full A to Z coverage, from lead generation to lead capture to nurture, onboarding, and retention. And what's great about our partnership with LeadLion is that as those leads are generated from the external sources like social media, Facebook lead ads, websites, landing pages, they're coming in automatically into our system, into InTouch Drive, for the teams to engage right away. So it's a huge efficiency boost. It's a boost in organization. It's a boost in more consistent process. So overall, it's a great value add for any club that's really looking to hone in on some of those fundamental processes, getting their leads captured, being able to engage them right away, etc. So on behalf of myself, I want to take a few minutes to thank you both for jumping on this webinar with me, discussing some key ideas and answering some key questions for our listeners.
My pleasure. It was fun. Thanks for having us, Bart.
So I just wanted to say thank you, Bart and Nick, for having me as a guest speaker on today's webinar. There's only one final thought that I'd love to leave the audience today, and that's the secret formula to increasing revenue during these unprecedented times is very simple, but it's not easy. Start off with two very simple things. First is retraining the team. Second is reinforcing the right behaviors with the team. And if you find that you're having challenges, don't hesitate to pick up the phone and reach out, because we're here to support our community and we're here to help. Thank you so much.